You may be wondering, where has Delson Armstrong, the leader of the Sutawedens, gone to? A few months ago, we published an expose about the Sutawedens and the TWIM doctrine. In that video, many shocking details were revealed about Delson Armstrong and his companions. After the publication of that video, both David Johnson and Delson Armstrong were invited to respond here on this channel. Regarding Delson Armstrong, I invited him to come stay in my home and eat my food, to discuss the Dhamma with me so that I could clear away his confusion. Neither one of these men had what it took to rise to the occasion. David has continued his efforts at covering up the incidents that were mentioned in the expose, and Delson Armstrong has gone into hiding. We have a message here from Delson. Currently, there are no retreats scheduled for 2024. I am taking the year of 2024 for personal time. Signed, Acharya Subhana, which is Delson Armstrong's alias. Also, this is his website. It says, please note there are no retreats, online or physical, scheduled for 2024. In a previous video, we compared the actions of David Johnson and Delson Armstrong to those of a common, run-of-the-mill hit-and-run driver. By going into seclusion at this time, leaving these important questions unanswered, Delson is continuing to behave consistent with that example. This is unfortunate. Just as the hit-and-run driver escaping from the scene of the incident, never to be seen again, is unfortunate for the victim of the hit-and-run, as well as it is for those who may become his victims in the future. While it may seem to be a beneficial and advantageous outcome for Delson, it is not so for all parties involved. And since neither one of these men has been able to stand up and contest any statements made in the presentation, everything said therein stands as the uncontested facts. This is an unfortunate choice, as it's clear to me that Delson stood to learn more in a few days speaking with me than he will in 1 year or even 10 years of practice in the TWIM method. Meanwhile, those who have been harmed by the TWIM practice, harmed by the words of David Johnson and Delson Armstrong, continue to suffer hardship. As I mentioned before, David Johnson has been continuing his cover-up operation. Part of that includes deceiving his followers on the TWIM discussion forums. Here we have a post in a thread in which they've been discussing how to prevent me from seeing the messages on this forum. When I showed messages from this forum in a previous video, I predicted that this would be David's response, to try and lock down the forum and prevent non-members from viewing what is said there. So I'll just go through this briefly to get to the interesting part. He repeats again that he has spoken to a lawyer attempting to sue me to take this content down and prevent you from knowing the truth. He also repeats that he has complained to YouTube and attempted to get them to take the videos down, again, to prevent you from knowing the truth. And then he goes on to say that I'm making terrible karma by doing these videos. David doesn't understand karma at all. He's not a stream enterer. He hasn't understood action and the result of action, and we've seen that very consistently in his behavior. What I'm doing here on this channel is attempting to save people from having their lives ruined by David Johnson and his false teaching. Already, several people have expressed gratitude for having their suspicions about TWIM and the Sutawedens confirmed by the copious evidence provided in our presentation. I haven't been doing this work to earn merit. I've been doing it to prevent people getting hurt. And that includes David, who is making much bad karma, continues to be making much bad karma, and will soon find himself reborn in hell. Okay, now this is the interesting part. So again, this is in reference to them finding a way to keep me from being able to report on these posts. He says, also, I looked over the group.io email list and can't find anything to remove that might be him. He is here, so that's the way it is. So let's remember this statement. Set this in your mind. He has just said that he's tried to remove me from the group, to prevent me from being able to post on the group or even read the messages in the group. Now let's look at the next sentence. He is just too afraid to say anything and just hides in the shadows and launches his verbal daggers. Did you see it? Now what do you think would happen if I were to spend my time carefully crafting a message to post to this forum? Do you think David would let it go through? Do you think he would not immediately ban the account? Well, you don't have to speculate. Just look up to the previous sentence, and he's told you exactly what he would do in the future, which is what he has just done in the present, and that is find a way to silence me, find a way to block me. He said that he has tried to get a lawyer to silence me. He has tried to get YouTube to silence me. And now, because David is a liar, and we've demonstrated that in previous videos, and interestingly, the posters in these threads who've seen that video don't seem at all concerned that David has just lied to them. That shows you how brainwashed they are. But anyway, David has contempt for his followers, and so he lies to them here, saying that the reason I'm not posting there is because I'm afraid. But I'm not afraid. I simply know that there's no one fit to talk to there. David Johnson has shown exactly how he would behave. He would ban me or block me, or even if he were to allow me to speak, he would dodge the issue, raise irrelevant points, etc. David has no integrity. He doesn't have the capacity to follow the procedures of discourse. If he had the ability to do that, if he had any integrity, then he would have accepted my invitation to do an interview on this channel. And we've seen that he's afraid. We've seen his cowardice time and time again. Here I have a platform to share this information with you that David can't censor, and that enrages him and drives him to tell these lies again and again. He can't face the truth, because knowing the truth would mean understanding what a reprehensible thing he's done. And so this is something important to bear in mind. If you're on the fence about TWIM, understand that if you follow David's instructions and you get hurt and you try to talk to him about it, he's going to gaslight you and dismiss you and ignore you. And if you speak openly about it in public, he's going to lie about you. He's going to try and sue you. He's going to try and shut you up. Is that the kind of person that you want to entrust your health and safety with? The next incident that I want to discuss involves Daniel Ingram. Recently, I published 2 videos that mentioned Daniel in passing, and he saw them and commented on both. The first was this one, the curious connection between lazy eye, psychedelics, and claims of enlightenment. And the second was this one, on the proliferation of false paths. Now, Daniel posted a number of comments on these videos, and I'm not going to go over all of them, but this one seems to cover the most relevant points. Daniel said, "Also, as a public figure, I realize that it is considered normal to treat public figures as not fully real people, particularly online, and not consider that they might have feelings about such videos and the loosely hurled insults in them. And, while it does take pretty tough skin to be out there the way that I am, and this video is neither unexpected nor some gross outlier in terms of the range of culturally normal rhetoric in this internet age, This tough skin is not perfect armor. And, as you know from my book, I am not above being hurt. So, I ask that you at least consider showing a bit more kindness and a slightly expanded theory of mind that takes me off of some pedestal and considers me as another fully human, and perhaps consider extending the same basic courtesy to the others you take on as well. Now, this is a very revealing comment, and we're going to go over the different parts of it. First, he makes some general statements about internet culture, which, in general, I agree with. However, I will point out that Daniel is especially sensitive to criticism. When Bhikkhu Analayo published a paper analyzing some of Daniel's statements, Daniel characterized that paper as a vicious attack.
Because this is a pretty, from my point of view, a pretty vicious attack. Bhikkhu
Analayo made no attack. There are no insults in that paper. You can read it for yourself. It's simply critical of Daniel's views. I'm sure Bhikkhu Analayo would be happy to explain to Daniel how he is delusional if Daniel still can't understand that. I simply put Daniel in the category of false arahants. That is not intended to be an insult, and as was mentioned in the video, becoming a false arahant could be as easy or as difficult as one wants to make it. And it's clear from Daniel's description of his practices that he chose to make it quite difficult. I'm sympathetic to the amount of effort that Daniel has put into attaining this false awakening. That doesn't change the facts, however, that it is a false awakening. And Bhikkhu Analayo has already covered this in some depth in his paper. And then he says that he doesn't have perfect armor and he's not above being hurt. And here we have another ironic comment that takes me off of some pedestal. What pedestal is that, Daniel? Is that the pedestal of an arahant that you placed yourself upon by claiming to be one? Is this the pedestal? Are you upset that people are holding you to the standard that you claim to have attained? The cognitive dissonance evinced here by Daniel is simply astounding, and this is what roused people like Bhikkhu Analayo to take action. The evidence of misapprehension on the part of Daniel is plain for anyone knowledgeable about these matters to see. If Daniel didn't want to be placed on this pedestal, he simply shouldn't have put himself there by claiming to be an arahant. If he looks within his heart and sees that he doesn't have the characteristics of arahantship, then he should know that it's a deeply shameful and inappropriate thing for him to do to misrepresent himself as being an arahant. And he goes on to say, another fully human. Well, Daniel, if you're still just a human, still just a worldling, then that means that you've failed in attaining the goal. An arahant is not just another fully human. To be another fully human is to be ignorant. It's to be enveloped by darkness. It's to be shackled in chains. It's to be the plaything of Mara, endlessly wandering into places high and low, with no clue as to the means of escape. But due to his ignorance and delusion, Daniel can't see that this problem is one of his own making. If he simply hadn't falsely claimed to be an arahant, then he never would have received any criticism for having done so. And bear in mind that the criticism of the wise is something that should be appreciated. It's given out of sympathy in order to help one avoid danger and attain release. I'm not surprised at all that Daniel is responding in this way. However, I am sympathetic to his position. The videos that he's commented on were not intended to hurt him or anyone. They're intended to help people, particularly to help people avoid being taken in by these false claims of awakening, misled, and irreparably harmed. So as soon as I saw this comment, and I saw that Daniel was hurt, I wanted to find some way to clear up the confusion for him. In another comment, he mentioned the possibility of meeting in person to discuss it. Well, we negotiated a little bit, and I got his email address, and we exchanged emails. Daniel was trying to continue to discuss his hurt, which was all based on misunderstandings, and I saw that it was going to be futile to attempt to relieve him of this hurt through email, and I encouraged him to meet with me over the phone or over Zoom. After numerous email exchanges, in which Daniel added himself to the list of people who have recently threatened to sue me in order to prevent me from sharing this valuable information with you, we agreed to do a Zoom meeting on January 1st. A few hours after sending me the meeting link, Daniel sent me a message saying that he had spoken with some wise friends of his and they had advised him not to meet with me. Who these friends were, I don't know, but they clearly can't be very wise if they advised him not to meet with me. I replied, encouraging him to go through with the meeting anyway, because I knew, based on what he had said earlier, that he was going to do a retreat in February, and I wanted to relieve him of the burden of this confusion before going into that retreat, and maybe foster some deeper insights into the Dhamma through our conversation. When the time of the meeting arrived, I decided to give Daniel one last chance, so I joined the meeting and sent him an email saying that I was there if he wanted to attend. I waited for 15 minutes, but Daniel never joined. This meeting was just to be a discussion between friends, not the interview that several commenters requested. And it seems, since Daniel wasn't willing to talk to me in private, that he wouldn't be willing to talk to me in public. So most likely, such an interview will never take place. And that is unfortunate for Daniel, because not only will he have to suffer from the confusion evinced in these comments, but he'll have to continue to suffer from the delusion that he's been under for a very long time, which he clearly cannot extricate himself from. For that, he needs the voice of another.